tell me, Mr. Techno?
Live.
We are live. It's good to be live because we are into a final of a competition. It looks that way anyway. It's still being played right now. 6-1 up, 10. It's been quite an easy night, hasn't it? And we thought we'd stream it a bit earlier tonight because it looks very much all done and dusted.
Yeah, I think it was a straightforward performance. Surprisingly, I thought we actually killed the game off early. Yeah, I think overall just good feeling to finally win a game convincingly and not make a tough task of it because we've got more important things to worry about, I think. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, you say more important things to worry about. I think this is quite a big deal, to be honest. This one, I think this is the biggest chance that we have at any form of Europe this season, and it's just had full-time whistles. So, guys, we're into the final. We're waiting for you, Fulham. We're waiting for you there. It's brilliant, isn't it? On a season with literally nothing much to go on, that we're in a final of a competition and potential to get into European competition. Just feels so good on reflection. And we went into this match thinking this could have been a bit of a banana skin, if you like, and especially after the first leg, which I was at. But all credit to the boys tonight. We made very easy work of it. My opinion, I think we came out of the traps very quickly, a lot of energy, straight from the word go. And the biggest thing that we did tonight was take the chances that we got given. And I think that was the key, especially in the first half. We killed the game dead. We didn't let it go to half time on a 1-0 or a 2-0. We managed to, get it over the line in that first half. And at the sort of towards the end of the second half. What did you think as a summary, Tem, of that match?
Yeah, I think I pretty much echo your thoughts. Like you say, we didn't make a meal of it. I thought it would possibly go to penalties with the way the first leg went. We started off very, very shaky in that first leg. We left ourselves a lot to do. It looked like we were going to make hard work of it. Middlesbrough absolutely outplayed us in that first leg. And today, I don't think we particularly played well, but you know what? We like you say, I think taking our chances was the big thing because we saw Cole Palmer, I think he missed 2 or 3 big chances in that game away. When we realistically should have scored 1 or 2. And it kind of shows, I suppose, when we're at home and, things go our way, how the difference in quality can really show.
Yeah, and I think Middlesbrough did play their part in that. It has to be said, in the first half, to say they bottled it would be an understatement. We definitely played a high pressing game, which worked in our favour. We were all over them. That we forced them into a lot of silly errors. I would argue at least 3 or 4 of the goals that we scored tonight were from unforced errors made by Middlesbrough. So I think as much as it's really positive, and we've got to be happy with the way that we played the game. The opposition were nowhere near what they were 2 weeks ago, and it's difficult to know how bad that was 2 weeks ago. I was there, travelled all the way up to Middlesbrough, was very disappointed with our performance, but in all honesty, Middlesbrough were chalk and cheese to how they were tonight. I just didn't think they gave it any fight. I think they gave up after the second goal. Basically, I think their game plan was literally to keep us out, and that was it. And what did you think on that?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, how was the atmosphere like on the away game? Just before we completely talk about it.
Well, the away game, it was very negative, but it was also that there was a positivity with Middlesbrough that they really came out, and I think in this game everybody was expecting Middlesbrough to rise to the occasion. They really didn't give us much, but then at the same time we did kill them very early, which was key. In that first half, we came out of the traps very quickly and we killed them off very early, very decisive. And I know, look, it's championship opposition. Some of the defensive play was awful. from Middlesbrough, real schoolboy errors, and it could have been more, quite frankly, if we would have turned the pressure on. But I you know, it was. I think it was definitely a much better Chelsea performance, much more concise than it was the week 2 weeks ago. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. And what did you think overall when the first leg finished? Did you think we would get it back, or were you always hoping?
I think the consensus was that we would, and I think that's the thing. The consensus was amongst most Chelsea fans that we would, but obviously it's still frustrating going up there and not having that belief that we can just kill the game on that night. And obviously tonight it just showed that if we do actually put everything together and play a full strength team, which we did obviously, but with a real desire to win, a desire to kill the game, to professionally manage the game, that we can easily beat these sides. I think it proved tonight there's a lack of belief actually amongst this team. We have plenty of goals in us. Don't get me wrong, Middlesbrough made a hell of a lot of mistakes leading up to a lot of goals, but we were at the beginning of that second half for about 20 minutes. We were in third gear. We were just knocking it around, killing time and waiting for I mean, Cole Palmer's goal to make it 5 was, it was well overdue, wasn't it? We were well in control of that game, and Middlesbrough were completely out of it the whole match, in my opinion. What did you think?
Yeah. I was just going to ask you really. Well, before I give my thoughts, that starting lineup, I thought, Pochettino actually went quite attacking. I was surprised to see Chilwell starting at left back with Mudryk on the left wing. I thought maybe he would have gone with maybe Madueke or Gallagher, and that's something else I think we'll talk about Gallagher's future. But when I saw that starting 11, I thought, okay, now he means business. He realizes this is a big game and we've got to start, on the front foot. We've got to make sure we get the first goal. So I was happy to see that we played Chilwell at left back and, used him sparingly, not made him play the full 90, because I think it's important he doesn't get injured now, especially the fact we only have him fit, and I think Cucurella is still on the way back, not quite fit yet. Yeah. So go on.
No, not quite fit yet. No, but you go on. Sorry.
Yeah, he's not quite fit yet, so I think it's important to keep Chilwell in the starting lineup and just get him some minutes. We have big fixtures coming up, one on Friday and obviously Liverpool after that away in the Premier League. So like I say, it's just important that we keep as many players fit as possible, because it seems like after every game we get a new injury or someone added to that rehab injury list that we see every Friday afternoon or whatever it is. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. When you saw that team, were you confident we would start strong?
I think it was the strongest team he pretty much could have fielded. Obviously, Gallagher was one question. It was good to see Broja, good to see that balance, which we missed in the first leg, clearly, because we didn't have a known striker, which was pretty glaringly obvious to most people. I mean, it's as good as a lineup as you could expect, and the thing is as well, we are playing a championship team at home in a semi-final second leg. If these guys can't overturn a 1-0 deficit, bearing in mind it has to be won on the night, so you have an advantage being home second just by that basis. It would be a bit of a travesty. So I mean, when the starting 11 came out, I was pretty positive. It was good to see Mudryk getting a start. I think overall I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and obviously starting off with the 1-0 goal, I think that was poor defending on their part. We made the mistake. I think we pressed quite well this game. I thought we pushed them back to sort of capitalize on the mistakes they made, which I think the first leg, like we've previously mentioned, we kind of we just didn't score, to be honest. That was really the only difference, I think. But yeah, asking your thoughts, what did you think on the first couple of goals? Do you think there were their mistakes, or did you think we forced them into it?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think they really bottled it quite a lot. Middlesbrough did tonight. They really they had their game plan was pretty simple. Uh, Defend like you did once you scored the first goal in the first leg, and try and do that for 90 minutes. And if you concede a maximum of one goal, then we've got a chance on penalties. That's basically all they could ask for. Yeah, I mean, we press well. We seem to press in unison. There was elements of brilliance in the first half. I thought Chilwell was excellent. I thought the way he brings such a dimension to this team. There's some real positivity about the team when he's on the pitch. He can get right up. He had obviously that penalty appeal before the first goal, which was probably a penalty on reflection. So that was positive. He was up and down that wing. A lot of the play went through him. And Palmer, Sterling played pretty well in the first half, I thought. Disasi. There's a lot of players who were very what I would call they had roles, but the roles were very flexible. There's a lot of fluidity within that team. And Pochettino, what I've noticed is when we play well, the players seem to understand that fluidity. If that makes sense. They understand their role. They understand where to cover, when they can go forward, when they can go back. It reminds me of. Do you remember the Arsenal home game, first half, and Cucurella was making these sort of runs into the into the final third? It's very similar to that. When it all comes together, it's very good. I think the problem is there's only sort of there is you have to have a certain amount of players fit and a certain amount of players available in order for that to work. And obviously, there's a few players that are intricate to that. Enzo being one of them. I thought Enzo in the first half was everywhere. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that. About you mentioned a really good point about players being fit. Do you think that with the amount of injuries we've possibly had has hampered what Pochettino's trying to do, or do you think that's more down to just the coaching tactics?
Well, it obviously has, and I think once there's certain games that you can look at where everything has come together, and this is one of them, especially in that first half and the beginning of the second half, where things are coming together. People know their defined roles. Obviously, Silva's not going to be making 40-yard runs up to the box. You have to. It's a bit like Liverpool, in the sense that Van Dijk will pretty much always sit back. But don't be surprised if Harvey Elliott's playing defensively while Konate's going up front, for example. It's like that ability to run. And I thought the Disasi goal was a prime example of that Poch style, in the sense that once you've won that ball, you've got the ability to run on, and Sterling knows where you are. I know it's kind of obvious, really. It's obvious football. If you made that intervention, you shouldn't be going back into defence. But it just seemed like a bit of Poch ball, that, and it was quite nice to see. But I don't know what you thought. Some of the first, the first couple of goals were pretty woeful defending. I thought, in fact, the third one was as well, pretty woeful defending. So they did make light work of it for us. But
Yeah, I think in the terms of the neutral, it was probably a very underwhelming game. I think a lot of people probably switched off after 30 minutes. A lot of people were just probably trying to, see if they won on their accumulator with, how many shots on target, maybe Caicedo yellow card, the typical Gallagher yellow card or something, or Sterling 2 shots on target. Because I think it's a good thing from maybe a Chelsea point of view, but the average fan, obviously, you're looking at a semi-final to be interesting. You want it to be hot in the mouth stuff, something to make you excited. That's what football, I think, is all about. Why we watch it, because of the drama and excitement. The Europa, trying to score a last minute goal, or a team getting a player sent off in the last minute and the game changes or something. And I think Middlesbrough did themselves a massive disservice because of how well they played the first game, how well they shut us out, or maybe was it a thing of how bad we played? Because you have to look at it that way as well. If you think they had 12 injuries, or was it 14? I think it went up to 14 injuries that game. And obviously we have 10 or 12 injuries, but even so, they're a championship squad and they're mid-table. We should really have not made a game of it that first leg, or at least come out with a draw, because I think when we lost 1-0 in the way we did, we set ourselves a big task. And like I say, that first half they completely capitulated, and I think I don't know if they fell to the atmosphere or what. I'm not sure. The occasion just got to them, but like I say, from a Chelsea perspective, I think it was good just to get that first half, go 2-3 up, because how many times have we moaned either this season or last season where we haven't scored a goal in the first half, or we haven't, killed a team off, and then second half we're making it such a tough game. Arsenal being a perfect example. Even we were 2-0 up that game, and we
1-0,
still
1-0 at half time, and then 2-0 after Mudryk, and that was the worst, in my opinion, because we had, we the game plan went to plan,
and I think I saw a stat. I think we were one of the only teams that didn't go one. We haven't gone 1-0 down at half time in the Premier League, I believe, or we haven't been losing at half time. One of the two stats. I think that was up until recently. I'm not quite sure, but I know that was a stat. And although that is impressive, we still haven't won that many games, if you know what I mean.
But that's a confidence issue, isn't it? Because doesn't that just show that they prep for these matches 1 or 2 days before, they get it in their heads, we're coming out with this, blah, blah, blah. And when it doesn't work at half time, and suddenly Poch is there going, right, scrap that plan, we're doing something else. I think that's when it all goes wrong, because they sort of, because they always, it is true, they seem to concede. It's like the Wolves game I went to, that was 0-0 at half time, I think, and then it was 1-0 after 10 minutes into the second, and then it was like, it's game over. I mean, the Middlesbrough away was 1-0 at half time, and we just didn't manage to break them down. I think that was the biggest frustration. But I think it's always been a problem of ours this season, is that once a team gets 1-0 up, it's almost like it's almost like a game, isn't it? Once you get 1-0 up against Chelsea, it's quite easy after that, But if you go 1-0 down, maybe it's not so easy. So I think with Middlesbrough, I think you've got to remember as well, it's a cup match. They have no option but to come out as well. They have to take risks once they're 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 down. There's no point. They don't get anything for losing. So or for drawing. So it's they've got to come out and do it. So yes, okay, it's obviously the overall success is brilliant, but at the same time, is this a fair reflection? Is it a turning point? And that's later to be seen. But who were your standout performers today, Tim, if any?
I thought, just before I talk about Mudryk, I thought Cole Palmer was the standout for me. He got most of the goals on our team today. He's very good with passing. He made quite a few decisive plays. I think he put a great ball into the box for Disasi. Disasi should have scored. Didn't quite hit at the end of it, but I think everything about Cole Palmer's game today was just excellent. So I think he was my man of the match anyway. I thought Disasi had a good game. I thought Chilwell had a good game. Enzo looked really good as well. Caicedo did his job very well. Didn't have to do too much, so that was good. But yeah, I think Cole Palmer for me was man of the match. What about you?
Yeah, I think he's still the standout player for us. But again, I think Chilwell, that's probably the real positive to take, is Chilwell coming back, and that really seemed to make an effect on the tempo of the play, on the positivity of the play, and also just the fluidity of the players. Being able to transition quickly and people moving to different positions. I noticed Chilwell at one point in the second half was playing right back. This is the sort of thing that I'm talking about. They seem to be able to move around quite quickly, and this is something that Liverpool do, which is a team that I think, in all honesty, I think we should focus on them more than Man City. I think long term, that's probably what we're going to be, or that's what we more likely going to be strong right backs, not necessarily a one goal scoring striker, but lots of good a good system that works. And when we turn it on, it can work. But everybody has to know the system, and that system will have to be drilled in. It might take a long time, and I suppose that's what we have to cling on to, because at the moment there's nothing else to cling on to, I suppose, and that's the key. So yeah, but look, all in all, we're into a final, and we have to now look back onto the league, onto the FA Cup, and everything else. What do you reckon? I mean, obviously we've got the next semi-final tomorrow. Obviously, chances are Liverpool will probably get there. Do you fancy us in a final against Liverpool or Fulham or either or?
That is a great question. I think. I would fancy us more against Fulham. I think that would be more of an evenly matched game. I just having seen the last two finals against Liverpool, there was not much in between us, and I think although people say we had more quality, I think we had a better manager then. Maybe now we have a slightly more quality squad. It's hit or miss. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I think the old squad is actually better than this squad that got to the final. But yeah, I think Liverpool haven't really lost a lot. I know they've lost Mane and Firmino, but still going forward, they look fantastic. The defense is still there. Midfield, they've lost Fabinho and Henderson. But I think the midfielders they've got now, they've replaced adequately well, and they still look like they're, strong going forward. So, yeah, I think Liverpool's definitely 100% the tougher team. I would rather Fulham go through, but if you're in a final, you're going to play the best at the end of the day. And if we have to play Liverpool, so be it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think I actually think tomorrow could be quite interesting, and they're by no means through, Liverpool. They're probably I would say we were probably more likely to, if you had to pick before today, I would say we were more likely to turn Middlesbrough over than they are, than Fulham. I don't know. I know they're already ahead, but I just got, going to Craven Cottage, going there on a night game under the lights. Fulham have got nothing else to play for. You just never know. It wouldn't be the biggest upset, in cup history if Fulham managed to turn that one around and we were to play Fulham. And I don't know which I would rather, to be honest. I think probably I'd rather Fulham just about, but it's hard to say. But obviously we've got two massive games coming up as well, and the biggest one, the next cup that we're trying to win is starts on Friday again. So it's Aston Villa at home at the Bridge under the lights Friday night. Tem, you obviously just to let a lot of viewers know, we reside in Birmingham, so for us it's a local team, if you like. So we know quite a lot about the opposition. Tem, what do you reckon we're walking into here? Because they've had a very good record against us recently, haven't they?
Yeah, unfortunately they have. For years I think Chelsea Villa's always been a fixture that we've just about won or always got the better of them, at least at Stamford Bridge anyway. I think their last win before these last two games was in 2011 or 2012. I think there was Darren Bent scored and they won 3-1. Other than that, yeah, like you say, the last two league games they've beat us 1-0 and 2-0, 1-0, or 1-0 and 2-0.
Yeah, 1-0 and 2. I think it was 2-0 and then 1-0.
Yeah,
I think the one that you went to both, didn't you? Unfortunately for you.
Yeah. But we'll leave that out. Anyway, I think that they've improved massively from last year. I think the last fixture we went to was, was that one of Emery's first games? Was that one of Gerrard's last games?
At Villa Park.
Yeah.
Me and you, yeah. So Mount scored a double. That was Graham Potter was still manager for us, and Steven Gerrard. And Steven Gerrard was manager for them, yeah, because they were in definitely. Mount scored a free kick. Yeah, so this just shows how what a demise we've been through since then, and that was on the way. We were on the decline at that point anyway, and the trajectory that Aston Villa have, and walking into this one, I think Aston Villa, they're going to be bringing something like 5,000 fans down on a Friday night. It's going to be boisterous. There's no doubt about it, and I'll be honest with you, I think. I just can't see us winning that one, unfortunately. I think it's a really good test for the team. If they can pick up from what we've been on, not being negative, we've just got to the final, guys. We should be really happy. But of course, we have to be realistic. You just hope, don't you, that they come from the back of this and go, look, we've got goals in us. It's a cup tie. It's a one-off game. And this is a team, Aston Villa, who are really going places, it looks at the moment. If we can overcome a team like this, which we don't seem to have done for a while, who knows? That could be the start of something good. But what do you reckon, Tim? What's your prognosis?
Yeah, I pretty much echo your sentiments there. I think they're a very good team, well drilled. They've got a manager who knows what he's doing, and he clearly gets his message across to them very, very well. I think particularly away from home at the big games, they've been quite resolute defensively. They only came unstuck against Liverpool early on this season.
Newcastle.
And Newcastle, yeah. But that was early on this season. I think they sort of rectified that. They've actually kind of started losing to teams that they would expect to beat, the likes of they drew with Burnley. I think they lost to the last team they lost to. I can't remember now.
They drew with Sheffield United around Christmas, I think, which they.
I think they just about beat Burnley, or did they?
I think they beat Burnley, but the point is that they seem to have found their mojo again. Just in recent games, they're still in the running for the top four, I would say. And obviously looking at us, it's a big opportunity. It's a home game. We've got players coming back. The injury problems are starting to lapse. We've seen what Chilwell brings to the team. Obviously, I'm fully expecting him to start surely on Friday. You'd expect so. So it could be a tasty affair. Do you think Villa are going for this one? I mean, the only thing that's a saving grace for us is that Villa have got a top four thing to worry about, and they've also got Europa Conference. Is it Conference League that they're in to worry about? So is it that maybe too many cooks spoil the broth, if you like, and maybe that they might not? I think they'll still field a strong team, but do you think that they have other bigger fish to fry, if you like? And that might work in their favour.
Well, they've got a huge Premier League game, as you can see here, against Newcastle on Tuesday. However, I think they can still field two strong 11s. I think even if they play their second squad or a half-rotated team, they would still give us a really tough game. I don't know how long. If this sort of break if it's going to make them better or worse. I don't know how they've been training, or how it's going to affect them, how it's going to affect us, especially having just played a few days before. So we've seen Pochettino take a few key players off this game, obviously looking ahead of the fixture on Friday. So hopefully that plays into our favour. Our players are a bit more game ready. They've been playing a few matches. So yeah, I think I'd like to see us play with a similar 11. Maybe the only change I'd make is Madueke for Mudryk. Yeah. I don't think we'd see anyone else. Maybe Nkunku might be back for that, but again, I wouldn't expect him to start. I think he'll come off the bench. Chilwell, I hope he hasn't picked up a knock, or any other players have picked up a knock. So yeah, I think we'll see much more of the same, really. I just hope we sort of kick on from this now. I know we've said this so many times this season, but it would be great because I think Villa would be one of the favourites anyway for the FA Cup. If you knock them out, you don't know how far you could go. We could get another maybe lower league team in the next round. Who knows? And we could try push for the FA Cup if we don't win the Carabao Cup. So it gives us something to look forward to towards the end of the season, because we still are fighting for Europe. I think we can make Conference League. So yeah, I think a win would be good for Pochettino as well, because he's been under pressure this season. We haven't particularly looked good playing football, and the rumours have been going around that these games were sort of crucial for his future. So the win against Middlesbrough, does it save him till maybe March? Yes, of course, but a win in the FA Cup would be even better on his sort of his time with the board. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and it's not bad being a cup team, as long as you can. I mean, if you look at West Ham last year, they were terrible in the Premier League, but they would look at that as one of the most successful seasons for the last 20 years, probably by winning that Conference League. So it does bring the fan base together. It does bring a bit of a buzz, like you say. It gives the manager a bit of time. It stabilizes the situation a little bit. Obviously, Man United had a similar thing last year with Ten Hag, and they're in all sorts of dire straits, but we won't talk about those guys. Transfer news, though, it's all been a bit quiet on the transfer front from what I've heard. Any insights, Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to say about Gallagher. The rumours are that Chelsea would be open to him leaving, and also Broja. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, but just before I'll quickly talk about them. Have you? What do you think about us potentially letting players go? Because that's the big news. Fabrizio has been saying that look out for Chelsea. More outgoings than incomings.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it goes from what I said earlier, is that when we play well in a system. We play well in a system that obviously, and the system comes from the managers, no doubt about that, right? So when we play well, we have this system like we did tonight, where Chilwell can have the freedom to bomb on, and he knows that someone's covering. And look, it's only Middlesbrough, of course. There wasn't a lot of threat going forward, so it's kind of a training ground session tonight. But we did score 6 goals. We had a lot of goals in us. We could have scored 8, I think, or 10 easily. Like we didn't. We were in third gear for a lot of the second half, especially. So it's kind of a case of do we actually is the striker, is this £150 million striker actually going to solve the problem, or is it going to create another problem where that's another? Because what's happened so far, what has been the problem? I don't know if you've noticed this. Is that Enzo has to play every match regardless of form. Caicedo has to play every match regardless of form because of the price tags. And so if you bring in a striker, he has to play every match regardless. So again, it limits your options as to the system. So now that we're in they can adopt this system, if they can actually work on the system and go, right, Cole Palmer's going to play X, Y, Z. And it doesn't even, like, Broja was there tonight. It didn't really notice Broja too much. Didn't really need to, because everything was going around him. So is it actually necessary to have like an out-and-out goal scorer? Who knows? We might just need a Giroud. We might just need, like Liverpool have a Nunes. Do we have to rely on this person for goals? I don't know. So is it the worst thing? Losing players? Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it's weird, because at the beginning there has been moments this season where you question the squad depth, and then at the same time we have an understanding, or I have an understanding, that in order to get a system to work, and again, I look at Liverpool because that's a good example of how a system works. They have a very consistent starting 11. There are players in there that have to play, like Alexander-Arnold, Robertson. They always have to have like a pinpoint midfielder, Van Dijk. There's certain players, Alisson, goalkeeper, these sort of things that you kind of have to have. But it all works around that system. But even if, say, for example, Alexander-Arnold gets injured, someone else comes in and knows exactly what they're supposed to do. So I don't, and these are youth team players who can look like real good players. I mean, Liverpool are top, and they're playing half of their team of academy players, literally for like Gilchrist style. Like people who are literally just coming in here and there, coming off, like Curtis Jones, people like this. You know, they're not good players. If we bought Curtis Jones tomorrow, he's not going to make us any better, I don't think. Do you see what I mean? But he understands the system of what Klopp wants to achieve, and I think that's it might not be the worst thing that we don't sign anyone and maybe offload a couple, but I don't know. I think it's who we offload and how we offload. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, I was just gonna. Well, before I say my opinion, I was just gonna ask: do you think that part of the reason why we haven't looked good this season is because of the manager's system? And do you think that maybe with a better manager, these players would look better? Or do you think maybe because injuries have been part of the reason why we haven't looked good? I know the manager obviously has been at fault with certain positional changes. You know, Chilwell at left wing. We've seen Cole at left back. We've seen Enzo playing as a 10 or as a winger or sort. But now that he's starting to have more options, do you think that now everything falls on him to get everything right now?
It doesn't. There's only been a few managers in my lifetime at Chelsea who have actually managed to adopt a system within the first year and had success. Mourinho, Ancelotti, and Conte, I would say. And but the reason for that was also because Abramovich had that constraint and basically gave them carte blanche on the transfers and said, "I'll give you what you want, but if you fail me, you're out." Right, and that was his thing, you know. Like, I'll give you £100 million. You can take out here. But we're in a totally different thing now, so it doesn't work like that. So it's a bit more of a tweaky sort of thing, whereby at the moment there's probably 6 or 7 players who understand the system in that starting 11, and if a couple of them are injured, then it doesn't work. And if we sell a couple of them, it doesn't work. And if we buy someone for £200 million and he has to start, it also doesn't work because he has to start that person. And if he doesn't buy into it, it doesn't work. Look at Conte. When Conte won the league, I remember we lost to Arsenal. I remember it was 3-0, wasn't it, at half time against Arsenal. He changed to a back three and we won 20 games in a row, something stupid. It might be a bit of an exaggeration, but we won
13 away games.
13 away. It was. Yeah, he literally just ripped up the rule book and went, "This is how we're playing." He got players who didn't have any right to. You wouldn't say any right, but people like Victor Moses, who we thought were squad players essentially, people like Alonso. To be honest, at that time, that was what made him Chelsea. He was basically he would have probably gone out on loan. You know, so these are sort of it doesn't. It's not actually that important about who we buy. It's more about, do they fit into the system? And that's why I think with Pochettino, if we are going to carry on with Pochettino, which it looks like we probably will, at least until the rest of the season, he needs to have a say in the transfer market. And if we're just going to go and buy Osimhen or whoever just because we can, it's not really the way to do it, I don't think. I think if he's trying to let him have a say, and I think Gallagher going, that's clearly a dig at Pochettino in itself.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interviewing you, but I've just got to distinguish the difference. So because of our squad makeup and we've invested so much into the squad right now, who do you think should go out if we had to sell a few players, to make it easier for ourselves, as you say, for Pochettino's system to work? Because so far, I think Enzo Fernandez is one that possibly doesn't benefit from the way we play right now. As of right now, I don't think we see the best of him. I don't think we see the best of Mudryk. I don't think we see the best of Broja. Again, obviously, most likely will go out. Our centre backs and just defensively set up, we don't look quite there. Gallagher, I'm not sure exactly where he fits in, although he's probably our best player sometimes. But again, that's because he does the basics right. I don't think you can look horrible when you do the basics right. He's got that sort of, as the young generation like to say, that plug and play. He can run around, he can tackle, he can do the basics basically. So he can fit into any team. If you you know how to do the basics, that's the minimum you can do at the top level. So who would you like to see go out if, you know, we had to trim down the squad? Because I think if everyone's fit, we are quite a bloated team. If you look at some of these names, I mean, you know, we've got here Jackson, Broja, Nkunku, Madueke, Cole Palmer, Mudryk, you know, Caicedo, Enzo, Lavia, Ugochukwu, Gallagher, and so many defenders as well. And you know, with us not being in Europe, is that really an issue we want this season?
No, I think the problem is with this. It's not to do with the squad. It's not to do with the manager. It's not to do with the owners. It's to do with cohesion of all three. That's the biggest issue. It's the fact that the manager's fighting against the players are fighting against the manager's fighting against the owners, and the owners are fighting against the players directly. So how it should work, in my opinion, is the owner goes, "Hello, manager. Thanks for taking the job. Now, what do you need?" And this should have all been sorted out. I'm actually surprised in a way because it took Pochettino so long to sign on that dotted line that it surprises me that he hasn't had a lot of say in who we bring in. But it just seems that it might be just modern football now. But when you look at Jurgen Klopp, and I keep going back to Liverpool because I think Jurgen Klopp is a good example of someone who has a say in transfers. I believe that. I think he does. I don't think he has as much as he'd like, but I think he has a say in transfers. I don't think you don't see many players that come in to a Jurgen Klopp team who don't play, like Calvin Phillips, for example, with Guardiola, which I don't think was his signing. And I don't think Grealish was necessarily his signing either. I think there's a few players in Man City that you could pinpoint and you can go, yeah, I think that was a club signing, not a manager signing. And I think with Klopp, if you look at it, like when he came to Liverpool, it took him years to do anything. It did. It took it, but every year it was a little bit stepping stones. I think the first year they might have got to a Europa final, or they got top 5 or something. I don't know what they got, but it was just every year it was a little bit more. And they got rid of one player and brought in another, and it was slowly. And then Salah came, and then they got Mane or whatever. It might have been the other way around. I don't know what way around it was, but they didn't build it overnight. It didn't all happen at once. And that's been the problem with us, in my opinion, is that we've tried to build Rome in a day, and we haven't, and we've had absolutely no thinking about how they're supposed to play together as a team in any way. Because I'm not being funny, right? When Conte won the league with Chelsea, and I always go back to this, we won the league purely because we didn't have any injuries. That's basically a fact. We had the same starting 11 the whole way through, and we had a load of players who knew their roles within that system. That was simple. We didn't have too many star players in that team when you think about it. We had a few, but there was a few ones that wouldn't get in a lot of mid-table Premier League teams, like Victor Moses, like Alonso. There were players like Matic. I mean, Matic was... he was a decent player. He's probably not in the same league as Caicedo, to be honest, is he, on the world stage, when you think about it? But he did a job, you know?
Yeah. I see what you mean. So just to round up what we were talking about, you say that you'd like to see... Did you say who exactly you'd like to see go out?
No, I just said it's not up to me. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's...
In your opinion, is there anyone you don't quite rate? Is there anyone you think, if they were on the chopping blocks, you wouldn't mind letting them go? A Gallagher, Broja?
In all honesty, it wouldn't bother me. I mean, it's very hard, isn't it? I mean, on their day, every single one of these players does something for the team. Probably Broja, I'm guessing, unfortunately.
If it was to bring in someone like Benzema on loan, would you?
It wouldn't bother me. I think it's a short-term fix, and it doesn't make any difference. That's my opinion. Yeah, I didn't again, and I keep going back to Klopp, and I keep going back to Emery. They didn't resort to that. I can't remember Klopp bringing in Ibrahimovic. They didn't do it. They didn't do that. If they needed to get top 4, they didn't go, oh God, it's January, we've got a few days left. What are we going to do? Oh, who's available? Oh, Benzema. Oh, Firmino. They didn't do that. They didn't bother with that. They just went, we believe in Klopp, we believe in Emery. If we don't get top four this season, we will next season, and that's the way. But we don't. Let's not rock the apple cart. That's the way to do it. So if we don't buy anyone, in a way, it gives Poch probably a bit more confidence in the owners, doesn't it? In a way, if they started, if they started going on, we're going to buy, it just what does that say to Poch? It just said we don't believe in the project, doesn't it? So in a way, if they don't do anything, in a way, it's not the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, I think a quiet transfer window. I would like to see us get a short-term striker in. I think it would definitely boost the squad in terms of trying to push up. But I hear your point of view as well. Maybe you don't need to accept the apple cart at the moment. Keep the squad consistent and try build on what you have, because what's a short-term striker really going to solve it in the long-term future? Does that save Poch? Does that save us chances for top 6 or top 8? I don't know. I think it would. However, who are we to know at the end of the day? We've seen many people come in January and fail here. More notably, Pato and etc. Falcao. Although he was bought in the summer, I think he was a summer. Yeah, Higuain. He did okay, not relatively good. But he has a short window to work. His wages, Benzema's wages would be an issue. I think he's on 4 million something a week. Ridiculous. So again, really unlikely. It's just, I think we've just bought too many players at once around the same age, same age thing, and it's kind of a difficult thing to rely on the likes of Nicolas Jackson, and then his understudies Broja, who's not much more experienced or much more better off than him. And then below him we've got David Washington, who's pretty much not played any first team football here. So Nkunku's constantly injured. Lavia, again, similar age to Fernandez, although he has Premier League experience, hasn't really been playing. Ugochukwu, again, he's only 19. Caicedo, again, 22, 23. So, when you buy players all at the same age, they all can't develop at once. I think that's been most Chelsea fans' issue, and it continually will be an issue, because we're seeing it tonight with Mudryk, another example. You can't take him off after 45 minutes and expect him to develop for the next, Friday. Well, what's going to happen? He's going to come on in the second half when Villa are 1-0 up or something, and expect to change the game in 20 minutes when he's not quite confident in himself.
I think the other thing is it's fairly obvious. This isn't like in life you learn off your elders, don't you? In life, in jobs, in anything. And it must relate to football that you learn from other people. I can accept they have coaches and things like that, but how many times I've watched the Beckham thing, the Beckham documentary he put out recently. He was looking up to Keane, Cantona, people like this, Steve Bruce, guys like this, to instill the mentality, instill the you must train. This is what you can achieve. This is how good we are as a football club. And we don't really have anyone like that. The only one is Silva, who you could argue, but I don't think he's a defender. Yeah. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he's got time for these guys. I just the body language. I think he's. It's almost the equivalent of like like a load of puppies, like with their mum. Like he just doesn't have time. Like it's like, God, get away from me. There's so many of them, if you know what I mean. Like it's there's too many of you guys, and I'm the only one that it's all on my shoulders. Like what do you want? And also he's off, probably at the end of the season, or we'll probably end up having keeping him purely on the basis that we have no one else. I mean, like I say, I think we had to sell some of these old timers, if you like, but it was probably, although it looks like good business, there's probably an element of business that you can't quantify in terms of cash and success that actually they had and that's like Gallagher is a good example of that. A lot of people say he's a good trainer, blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff. he's still a young lad, really, in the grand scheme of things. He's not won much. He's for a club of this size, he's frankly out of his depth at his age to be taking on the responsibility of club captain, as is Reece James, to be honest. So there is an element of, and I've always said it. Jordan Henderson, that was the one that I always went for. I'm surprised we didn't go in for him, to be honest, that he was available, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moving on swiftly. So Tem, obviously we're what are your sort of thoughts then? Rest of the transfer window, is there any hope? Is there anything that you don't want to see that you do want to see? Anything just to round that one up?
No, I think we've spoke about everything. I think the only thing I'd like to see is a striker maybe on loan, but again, I think Broja, if he wants to leave, he should go. We should get someone else in for the short term, get us ourselves high up in the table, as long as they're experienced and a known goal scorer, because I think signing someone on a permanent basis doesn't make sense this window. Give them till the summer. If Pochettino leaves, or if what's the point of signing a player for Poch if Poch is going to get sacked in the summer, or he's possibly not here? I mean, we've probably left ourselves with another mistake. So from what it sounds like anyway, I think the club are making decisions themselves in spite of Poch. So yeah, I think that anyway, regardless of whether it's for Poch or not, I think the best time to sign a striker for the long term would be the summer. I think January you're going to get mugged off for trying to go for a long term option.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair enough. Well, we're nearly approaching the hour mark, and as we always do, we do our score predictions before we go. The next one, it's going to be Chelsea this season is very hard to predict, and let me tell you, we've rarely got a score prediction correct. But Tem, I'm going to go to you first. How do you see the match going, firstly, and then how do you see the scoreline going? Is it a match? Do we have to finish it on the day? Do you know, or can it go to replay?
So it goes to replay if it's a draw. So after this round is when replays stop.
Okay.
My scoreline prediction, I think, with the way both teams are playing at the moment, I would more likely lean towards a draw. I think a 1-1 or 2-2 is probably what I can see happening. I think, Villa haven't been scoring a lot of goals as of recent time, but they haven't been putting teams away easily as well. So I think we have momentum on our side. Just the fact that we've played a game on Tuesday. I hope our players don't feel leggy when it comes to that Friday fixture. Again, I don't remember the last time I've seen a team play Tuesday and then Friday. That's usually unheard of. However, it is what it is. They get to play next Tuesday as well whilst we're off. So yeah, I think looking at the form table and just how this season's gone, I would expect us to get a draw.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mr. Positive. I think we'll beat them. I think a home match. We seem to be showing up against good oppositions this season. We've had some good home results against good oppositions, like the Arsenal. Okay, we could argue the tone of the result wasn't great, but the Man City one was very standout. The Liverpool home game, first game of the season, was pretty good. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Chelsea Cole Palmer penalty in the 85th minute with a Raheem Sterling dive. Guys, it's been a pleasure. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. We're through to another final. We've been to so many. Guys, be positive. We're Chelsea. Imagine if you weren't Chelsea. Up the Chelsea.
Yeah, peace. Up the Chelsea.